In this session, we'll be walking you through sustainability at Kellogg, both the college's initiatives and kind of in the context of the broader university initiatives, as well as ways to get involved. And starting with introductions, my name is Erin Rugland. I'm a second-year MPhil student in Water Science Policy and Management, and I'm the MCR's Green Rep, so kind of the student representative on sustainability issues for this term and the year.
And I'm Chris Pugh. I'm one of the fellows of the college, and I have the marvellous title of being the Sustainability Fellow. This is a post I was appointed to 12 months ago. I have, as you can see, a variety of medical qualifications, but no sustainability qualifications at all, beyond enthusiasm and I hope to do something good both with the college and personally. So it's fantastic to team up with Erin to think about what we can all do. And this Welcome Week presentation is the first time we've done it, so apologies if there are a few bumpy bits along the way, but we thought it was a good place to start at the beginning of the new academic year. Nice to see such a range of people. And I think there's a space for everybody in all of this. And I also think it's very easy to be daunted by the agendas, but actually little bits around the place add up, as well as big bits here and there adding up too. So I think I have a few slides. We've got 20, I think. Yeah, sorry. So this is just to put the college and the university in its context. The university obviously sits in the city of Oxford, in the county of Oxfordshire, and there are initiatives at that level, and we try to link into those. The university is a federal structure with all its colleges, of which Kellogg is one, and its various departments, and there are things going on at college and departmental level, as well as university level, as well as council level. And we were just going to flick through some of those because we're not trying to say Kellogg is doing this all in isolation. Within college, there are a few things that are up and running, and we will come back to some of these in a little bit more detail. Erin has introduced herself as the MCR Green Rep. That's a great title. The portfolio is somewhat up to Erin to invent and to work with you to get the most out of, and it inevitably fluctuates from year to year. Erin is here, has been very engaged over the summer. I hope that this time next year we will have a Green Rep who has been equally engaged over the summer. So those of you who are here for more than a year, this is a role that you might aspire to, perhaps. You might have to compete with Erin if she's still doing that. Still doing next year. Yeah. We have a sustainability committee, which I chair within the college, and I'll tell you a little bit about the college's sustainability policy in due course. And as sustainability fellow, I didn't realise when I was appointed to the post, I ended up sitting on about 6 different college committees because the ecosystem is complicated and there is nothing that doesn't impinge on the site or the academic activities or something or other else in the college. The college also is a major host for the Sustainable Urban Development course, and the college has a variety of academic centres, and the one most relevant to this conversation is a global centre on healthcare and urbanisation. And that means that there is expertise within the college, and there are people who may choose to do their project in their Sustainable Urban Development course on something that relates to college activities or city activities. Equally, last year in our Green Week, we had a series of talks from interns who'd worked in the Global Centre on Healthcare and Urbanisation about their projects and what they had done. And then, not last, but we are also a host of a bike scheme, Ox Bikes. So those of you who are wondering how you're going to get around the city of Oxford and think that you might get tired walking, there's a good bike hire system here, which can make a difference. So what's the university doing about this? And it has the sustainability strategy, 2 headline targets, net zero by 2035 and a net gain in biodiversity by 2035. Along the way, there are all the sort of predictable strategic priorities, including things like greening up the university buildings. You can imagine that's a problem for a grade 1 listed building, but it's also a problem for us with our Victorian architecture. working on sustainable food supply. Our kitchens are pretty good in that regard. Many of the meals are vegetarian and quite a lot of the food is locally sourced. I've mentioned the bike scheme and local travel comes in here, and you can see all the various other items there. And the university's got a reasonably serious commitment to make this happen, putting in money, working towards all new designs being passive house method, ultimately thinking about offsetting. The university owns quite a lot of land, or at least its colleges do, and it may have opportunities to do things in that space. But you know, this is all something that everybody needs to think about and be involved. So the sorts of things you can be involved in are things like the university's Green Impact Scheme, where we would like to have a college team. We had a college team the academic year before last. We didn't have a college team last year. You can think about being a project assistant, joining other people's teams, or you can get training to help with the assessment of all the various teams that are competing with one another across the university. I'm not sure that anybody mentioned working in a laboratory. Maybe oncology takes you into a laboratory from time to time, but the university has a LEAF scheme trying to make laboratories more environmentally friendly. I've mentioned Green Impact. There's a sustainability mailing list, which produces all sorts of interesting stuff and various things that you can join there. And this is all recorded. You can look back at these things, or if you very quick with your cameras, you can get the QR codes now, I guess. There are a variety of green weeks. I mentioned that Kellogg had a green week last year. We've got that in the diary now for the first week of the summer term next year. The university has a Green Action Week in the middle of February, and the Oxford Councils have a Green Week next June. So the nice thing about talking about those in September is we've got a bit of lead up time to each of those to think about how we as a college might contribute, and in particular, what we might want to do in our college Green Week. So I've talked a bit about the university's sustainability policy. This is the college sustainability policy. Again, net zero carbon emissions and biodiversity gain by 2035, and that to be achieved through a mixture of monitoring, reduction, and importantly, I think, publicity and thinking about the culture within the college and the people we interact with. In terms of monitoring, we have a variety of surveys in place, and some of you may wish to help with gathering the data for these surveys. For the first time, we ran an annual transport survey last year. Sadly, we only got slightly over 100 responses out of 1,400 or 1,500 people who were polled with the survey. So a bit of work to be done there to make that more robust and more meaningful. And maybe we need to slim down the survey and gather less information from more people. The college is auditing its fuel uses, biodiversity, etc. We're working towards reporting categories for annual budgets. We're thinking about the college recycling rates, which aren't bad, but could always be better, and formalising an annual carbon accounting framework. There's quite a lot of work going on with reduction. The college has a policy that all college-funded business needs to take a sustainable view of transport, no flights where alternatives are available, for example. Mentioned food along the way. There's interest in trying to make the buildings more sustainable, thinking about the target temperatures in rooms that are empty for large numbers of hours of the day when people aren't in their bedroom, but they're in their department, thinking about whether it's actually comfortable at 18 degrees or 19 degrees rather than the 20 or 21 people might be more used to. Thinking about putting additional, adding solar panels to existing buildings and any new buildings that are built, electricity from renewable sources, and retrofitting as part of maintenance and beyond. Quite a difficult issue with the college estate as it is, and we'll reflect on that in the next slide a little bit. Reducing on-site water use, reducing paper use, all the sort of normal things. And as I say, culture and publicity. And this slide shows two of the college's buildings. I hope you recognise the hub. This was the university's first ever passive house building, and Kellogg is proud that it was the site of that first passive house building. In the background, you can see one of the Victorian buildings. They're quite difficult to retrofit. They're not necessarily, well, the walls aren't cavity walls, the roof spaces are inaccessible, the windows are single glazed, they're a little bit drafty, this, that, and the other. And so the investment to turn one of the buildings on the left to anything even approaching the building on the right is absolutely enormous and something we can only work towards incrementally. Over to you.
So here are some formal roles that are available in the college if you're interested. So first, like we've mentioned, there's the green officer role, which I currently hold. But as my role as green officer, I don't intend to gatekeep or anything. If you have event ideas or something you want to see happen, I'm happy to be more of a personal assistant in that regard. Or otherwise just try to like catalyze activity in the college related to sustainability. So I guess some ideas that I've been thinking along the lines for the year include like a clothing swap. We'd like to get a garden going, as we mentioned, in which enthusiasm and volunteers is going to be highly needed, and kind of things of that nature. Next is environmental ambassadors, which are 2 paid student roles that help on the college's green impact team and to get the award that is associated with that in the college. So this involves like energy monitoring and doing some surveys and kind of auditing the college in that regard for the green impact scheme. Next is health officers, which are volunteers in the student houses in Kellogg to kind of like report back on sustainability practices that are working or not within their houses, or to kind of help other housemates along the way in terms of recycling or food waste disposal and things of that nature. And then finally, there are occasional micro internships, such as for the Global Center on Healthcare and Urbanization or other posts that may become available. Chris and I are interested in maybe establishing some for some of the initiatives that we hope to do this year as well. So yeah, and those would also be paid opportunities. So in addition to formal roles, there are a few informal roles, as I mentioned. High hopes to start a garden, perhaps more gearing towards a spring launch, given that fall winter is not ideal for gardening and we have some like administrative hurdles to overcome to get one on site. In addition to that, there's a semi-annual biodiversity survey that needs volunteers to come and count species on site and things of that nature. Like we've mentioned, the Green Impact Scheme Awards, we need volunteers to help us achieve that every year. And then occasional opportunities like talks or workshops such as this, or again, anything you might be interested in hosting that we can help with. And our final 2 slides are just about university resources on this matter. So there's a whole smattering of Oxford networks and organizations that host events. There are activism and advocacy opportunities as well. I am also involved in this Anthroposphere Review magazine. If you're interested in that in particular, I can speak to that, as well as the Oxford Water Network. Those are my specific like areas of expertise on here, but happy to provide half information about anything else. And then further university resources, student societies, and then more professional opportunities. The ones that are opportunities can include student jobs or like training, professional training. And then finally is just like a little brag about this student watchdog organization that ranks the Oxford and Cambridge colleges, and Kellogg is number 2 currently. And I think I can say that it's not because we were chasing this ranking per se, it's because we're kind of quietly working towards sustainability goals and have enough public information that we rise to number 2. So yeah, something to be proud of in the college as well, and I think something that we could advertise a bit more and continue to grow.
That's right, we didn't even know this ranking existed, or at least I didn't, and then suddenly it appeared, and that gave me a slightly warm glow. Slightly worryingly, St. Anthony's immediately contacted us and asked, how did we think they could do better? So that was sort of like what's inter-college rivalry ethos. So we gave them some good and sound advice, which
yeah. I think also colleges that are lower on the list have denounced this organization as invalid. So that's just institutional politics for you in these matters.
And there are some, we could talk about the the wrinkles in this if people want. Kellogg's rather fortunate because it doesn't have very much money, therefore it doesn't have very much money invested in the wrong things. And that's quite a good way of doing well. Penalises you for having money invested in petrochemicals, etc. Every cloud has a silver lining. So that's all we plan to do as a formal presentation. We hope we've sown some seeds there, and we'd be very happy to discuss any or all of the above as formally or informally as people would like. I guess at some point I will get an email asking, have we got a Green Impact team, or Erin will get that email. So if anybody is interested in volunteering for that, if you could drop us an email, then we can sort of keep in touch, because it's very easy to have people along to a session like this and then not quite remember the names and the degree and the email address, and end up having to appeal when we may already have the right number of zealots, converts, or whatever in the audience. And also inevitably doing this as a one-off at the beginning of the talk, however often and there are resources, and just spread the word, because if each of you go and tell 3 or 4 people, one of whom is interested, then we'll double the numbers in the pool, and that can only be for good. Yeah.
So can you just speak a little bit about what the Green Impact team actually does? Sorry, I don't quite understand what the Green Impact team does.
Yeah, so it monitors and tries to facilitate the adoption of the good policies that exist, and then it audits against that impact to see whether whether things are working or not, and learn if they aren't working on how we might do things better.
Yeah, I think some of the official descriptions entail some monitoring and calculation of various building impacts. Yeah, monitoring and auditing energy consumption, proposing recommendations based on how well we're doing with that or not, and taking forward additional green initiatives, whatever that might entail.
So one of the things the college has done is it's invested in a technology that measures the temperature in each individual room and links that to thermostatic control valves on each radiator. And there's a bit of delicacy between to what extent we're telling you what temperature your rooms are and to what extent you can decide what rooms are, what room temperatures are. But at the same time, we try to promulgate the idea that many places are heated hotter than they need to be. In terms of communal spaces such as this room, it's completely crazy heating this room to even 19 degrees if nobody's in it for the whole day. And so this system is linked into the room booking system and can potentially turn the heating off in this room over the whole weekend if it's not being used, and turn it on a couple of hours before the first booking of the week, and moderate things like that. It sounds a bit like Big Brother watching you and so on, but I think it has a route to making quite a big difference to the college's energy bill. And it means that we will be able to produce quite a lot of that data in a sort of semi-automatic way. Erin mentioned the idea of house officers. We have wondered whether there would be any enthusiasm for competitions between relatively similar houses, opposite sides of a semi-detached house, which one can be more eco than which other one. But at the same time, we're mindful of community and sensitivity. Some people have health reasons why they need rooms at particular temperatures. Some people come from parts of the world where even 21 degrees is very cold, and we don't want to disadvantage different groups. That's been one of the problems with our travel survey. A huge amount of effort working out how many people travel a mile or two around the city of Oxford, mainly on foot or on bicycle, probably not a huge impact, versus the odd transatlantic flight, which inevitably, if we're going to be an international college, is bound to be the case. And we don't want, we do want the international feel of the college to be preserved. We learned quite a lot about distance learning and so on during the pandemic. We learned efficient ways of doing it, but actually there's no substitute for being in the same room as another human being. There's an awful lot of evolution that's gone into the ways we interact in person, which we don't quite capture on a flat screen. So there are some real dilemmas out there. But at the same time, the college has now adopted policies where it doesn't pay for air flights that aren't necessary, for example. But it's a very steep learning curve. But if we don't learn and don't promulgate the activities, then it won't work.